Hello everyone, my name is Josh and you're watching Arachnashack. Arachnashack is a brand new channel that I've created devoted to all things arachnid, but more specifically tarantulas. So if you like bioactive enclosure builds, care and husbandry videos, feeding or breeding videos, rehousing videos and all that other good stuff, then you may want to consider subscribing. Today's video is going to be a bioactive enclosure build tutorial, so let's get into it.
The tank that I'm using for this build is an EXO Terra 30 by 30 by 30. I cleaned it out with warm soapy water, making sure I rinsed it thoroughly afterwards. I then used a pure rubbing alcohol solution. This step isn't essential, but it gives me peace of mind that the tank is clean and free of any germs. Okay, so the next step is to secure in the background. Now the background that I'm using is the EXO Terra background that came with the tank, but as you can see I've stuck sphagnum moss to it using a hot glue gun, and then I cut it in half. The reason for this is I'm going to build the tank up at the back with substrate, and it will just give me that little bit of extra room. To secure it in, I flipped it over and used hot glue on each edge and also in the middle. Once the glue was applied, I flipped it over and pushed it into position. Okay, so next is hardscaping. The hardscaping process is a way of pre-planning where you are going to put all of the items inside of the enclosure. I like to put the wood, the plants and any sticks or extras that you're going to add to the tank and get a rough idea of where you want to put them. So when it comes to adding the substrate and putting stuff in, you've got a little bit of a plan. I always find that this helps the build go a lot smoother and you get better results at the end. Now it's time for the substrate. The substrate that I'll be using is a custom mix, and it consists of cocoa fibre, peat moss, activated carbon, sphagnum moss, a mixture of leaf litter, vermiculite and a small amount of sand. I've had great results with this substrate mix as it holds water well but also provides good drainage due to the vermiculite and sand. It also holds its shape well, and if a tarantula decides to burrow, the burrows will not cave in. I use this substrate mix in all of my bioactive enclosure builds. It has all the key components in it to create the perfect environment to support the plant life, the microfauna and the specimens themselves. If you would like more information on how to make this substrate, then do stay tuned, as I'm in the process of making a video dedicated to making this substrate. Now that I've added a decent amount of substrate, it's time to add the live plant. Whenever I add live plants to an enclosure that will be housing animals, I always ensure to clean them thoroughly. This can be done by taking them out of the pot and gently taking off the soil from the root system. Once you have the majority of the soil off of the root system, I rinse them under a tap to get as much of the soil off as possible. You can even go as far as to soak them in warm soapy water for about 5-10 minutes, taking them out and rinsing them well after. This will ensure that any hitchhikers and nasties do not make it into your enclosure. I dig a small hole in the substrate and place the plant in the required position. Once I'm happy, I put more substrate on top and pack down tightly. Now it's time to add the wood. I place the wood roughly central within the enclosure, as I want to build the substrate up at the back and add some live moss. Also, I would like the tarantula to make its burrow underneath the wood. Once the wood is in, I add more substrate and start building it up and packing it down. Now that I'm happy there's enough substrate at the back of the enclosure, I'm going to get ready to add the moss. I'll start off by clearing away any big chunks of orchid bark or carbon, and then I'll spray with water. Once the substrate is nice and moist, I'll add the moss piece by piece, gently pushing it down, helping the moss to root to the substrate. The last item that I'll be adding to this enclosure is a moss covered stick. I achieve this by gluing dry moss to the stick with a glue gun. Next is microfauna. I'll start with the springtails. Springtails are easy to transfer into the enclosure, as all you have to do is grab a piece of the charcoal with springtails on it, put it in the enclosure and blow. The springtails will then all jump off the charcoal into the enclosure. I will now dig out and add some isopods. After the microfauna has been added, I added some leaf litter to finish off the enclosure. I then added the specimen. I do apologise as I forgot to push record on these two steps. Now that she's in there, let's enjoy her in all of her beauty. I gave her some time to settle in and then offered her some food. She's a very good eater normally, and she did not disappoint.
There we go guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did and you want to see more videos similar to this one, then please do consider subscribing, and if you push the notification bell you'll be notified every time that I upload new content. Again, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.